hello, 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 hello.
Oh,
Back from the depths.
yes. Yes.
Oh, it's
time.
been
Been a
What a
minute.
time.
Been a minute. Wow.
Mm.
But it's been great. But the thing is, what I'm so excited for is that we have somebody special joining us.
Yes.
Back, like we're back. So you know what, Michael, go ahead and tell us who is this beautiful special person?
This is the slayer of 30-second notes, the queen of vibrato,
Ah,
this amazing conical player that is the Dr. Jen Oliverio.
woo.
I need to bring you everywhere for my introduction because that was just really special. Thank
You
you.
know, of course. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about like who is she, who was she, who does she hope to be, and then we're gonna hop in.
I love it. She is currently assistant professor of trumpet at Missouri Western State University. She is principal cornet of the Fountain City Brass Band.
Woo.
She is a dedicated mama to a 6-year-old and wife to Patrick, and hopefully a passionate and supportive friend and aspiring composer. And she does some like freelance trumpet stuff. She hopes to be a good role model for the people out there, especially young brass ladies.
I love that. I love
Thanks.
that.
You talk about your journey of being a lady in brass, which is definitely, I would say, an underrepresented little component of what makes our world our career.
Absolutely. So it's been kind of an interesting journey. I feel like I've been overwhelmingly lucky because there are some really beautiful mentors and people in my life that have helped make it a less treacherous journey for me. And I hope to be that for other young brass musicians. I am very fortunate because I feel like a great deal of my scholarship is centered around supporting women in brass and women in that field and area. So like playing with the Athena Brass Band, I'm a new member of the Calypsis Brass Quintet. I just subbed with Seraph Brass. And so being able to celebrate and support all of these initiatives that really are meant for, the ladies. It's been great. It's been really nice, especially since a lot of these organizations, like when I was younger, when I was looking for organizations, some of them didn't exist or I wasn't aware of them. And it's been very meaningful to kind of dig into the impact that those can have.
So, a little just to go on this part real quick. When you were, let's say, an undergraduate student, how many in your studio at that moment were also aspiring young female trumpet players? And then how many in your own brass professors at that college were female brass players?
There were 0 women faculty brass players. But one of our conductors was a trumpet player. So like she did like the wind ensemble and stuff like that. And she was a trumpet player in a previous life. So it was cool to kind of see that impact, but it wasn't as direct as having your studio professor be a woman.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe 25% of the studio, maybe less than that, was women students in the trumpet community. It's generally been overwhelmingly male. But it was interesting when we started doing band in like 4th grade in New York, and it was just super early. And I would say about 50% of the trumpet section was women at the time.
Oh.
So, yeah.
And so you grew up in New York.
I did, yeah.
Okay. And so I know, like, as a middle school band director, whenever I see young girls getting into brass. Like right now, I have a girl tuba player, and she's rocking it.
Yeah.
And so, that's what we want to do, now, because it has to have a focus on it. Because I would say in the past, there has not been, there were boy instruments and girl instruments. And, I think now we are kind of saying there shouldn't be a gender for the instruments, and now that you're a mom, like, have you thought about like that as your child is like growing up, of what instrument they want to play, if they want to play an instrument?
Yeah, my son, well, I think about it in a lot of different elements. I think about it a lot from the perspective of like gender expression. I think about it a lot from the perspective of like what influences are in front of my child and in front of the children of others and in front of future educators, because all of that kind of permeates the existing environment. So, for my son, he's funny because I feel like he's going to be a percussionist because he's really into, it's like he's very sensory oriented and loves like likes making noise, and he likes knowing that he's making noise.
Yeah.
He has lately started coming into my office when I'm practicing, and he'll bring his trumpet and he'll be like, "Mommy, it's time for a trumpet lesson." And I'm like, okay. And it's about 3 minutes long. We do hot cross buns, and he rage screams hot cross buns through the trumpet, and he's like, "Nailed it. I'm done." So we love that energy. But I mean, if he could play any instrument he wants and we would support it. He could play no instrument and we would support it. Really,
Amen.
It's about making sure that if he's a part of the music community, then he's having an enjoyable experience in the music community. It's not something that's forced upon him.
Speaking of the music community, as we, before we were recording, we talked a little bit about ITG,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember, Michael, if we like talked on the pod a little bit about our ITG experience, or specifically my ITG
In
experience. So I'm going to
Minneapolis, I
share.
don't think we did.
Yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to share a little bit. So a few years ago, Michael and I went to ITG, and we performed. We're doing flute trumpet stuff, and overall performance was great. What I did experience on the social level was a lot of looks, a lot of like very frantic looks. And this is like, all right, this is more than I experience in my other areas of just being a black flutist or like a black
Mm-hmm.
arts administrator. Like I usually get a certain level of that wherever I go, but especially at ITG,
Mm-hmm.
I literally made a decision to not wear my name tag because so often I just would see like and people, if you go to a conference, you absolutely know that is like what is happening 80% of the time. But I think specifically as I was looking around, if you don't know what INTG looks like, well, imagine just white men
Bald.
everywhere.
Some of them
Just
are. Some of them are bald.
just a sea of white men.
Yeah.
And every now and then you see some younger girlies walking around and everything, and it's like, okay, collegiate, you can like kind of see where the sprinkling of the new is coming in. But me, oh, there were
Mm-hmm.
questions. There were like, I think what Anthony was saying was like, wait, like what was the thought process was like, I know the three black girls who play trumpet in the entire universe. You're not one of them, so who are you?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about it. I mean,
Sure.
you're in the community, and obviously like being a woman yourself and like working and advocating and trying to uplift and make sure the next generation of women brass players feel comfortable in these spaces. What has your experience been like, and how like what are the like groups, Athena and everything that you're working with and doing to help these environments be maybe even more enjoyable, or are you creating your own for people to have newer experiences?
There's a couple of ways that I think we can all universally help in environments like this. One is to be like a very safe mentor in those spaces. So if, let's say if I also noticed at that conference that there were a lot of like younger women, like younger musicians in general, that this is like a very diverse population for people that are collegiate and younger.
Yeah.
I would not say that I would say that it's in progress for, kind of the professional community. I think it's getting better, but it is a slow moving process. I think that it's hard because it's one, very difficult to get jobs in academia. There's a lot of boundaries around getting those jobs and getting those jobs in orchestral communities and things like that. Whether it's financial, whether it's you know just the people being like racist or misogynist or any of those things, it's very difficult to get those jobs. And when you're applying to be a presenter or a recitalist or someone at these conferences, they look at your resume, you know? And so a lot of times the people that on paper look like they're most qualified are the people that have been fortunate enough to not have to push through some of those barriers. So that's one of the big challenges. So at conferences like ITG, I'll be going and doing a recital. My duo, Mother Chaos, is, yes, we're doing a recital of all works by women composers. I'm not playing a trumpet on that recital. I'm playing exclusively cornet and flugelhorn because we love it. But also, I'm encouraging, students to participate in the volunteer elements of it because it is increasing access for a lot of students. They cover some of the travel, they cover some of the hotel situation. They might not cover travel, but they do cover registration, which is very, very expensive at some of these conferences. And so that just kind of increases that access. And I hope that, the younger populations of students know that this would be a safe place if they needed support at those conferences.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. I mean, and it's hard. You mentioned something that I want to highlight, the fact that whenever we are seeing maybe more students of color, more young women at these kinds of conferences that in general have been in the past very heavily white male dominated, there is still that gap of like seeing those demographics within the more professional arenas as well. And I think a big part of maybe, and I'm experiencing this now too. I'm finally done with school. If I'm going to these kinds of conferences, it's either because of work, I'm getting paid to be there, or I really, for whatever reason, have to go. Maybe a friend's presenting, I want to be there in support.
Mm-hmm.
But I have realized that a lot of those conferences that I used to go to because I had, the free student opportunities and tuition, everything, I am actively choosing not to participate in now as a post school professional performer and like administrator and everything, because I'm like, I don't see a need for myself to be there. And I wonder if that similar thing is happening with many people within the trumpet community, brass community as well. Of that is why you're seeing those gaps, is because
Mm-hmm.
there is a lack of like feeling of like I belong here in a lot of those communities. And we're starting to see more conferences that are specifically being made to highlight and uplift. And I think that Michael, IWBC and like the other groups in which I think you have either performed with or supported, and I think the same for you, Jen. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how are you involved in like groups like that? And do you feel like the conversation in those spaces are kind of like that, where it's like we don't necessarily participate in what goes on like the international like conference levels because it just doesn't represent who I am?
I think there's a lot of conversation with younger generations right now around like a cost benefit analysis. Like, how much is this going to cost me to go? And does it benefit me in a meaningful way? Like, is it something I need on my resume, or is it a connection that I need to have? Or, especially for things that are overwhelmingly expensive. Like, I know as an undergraduate student or a graduate student, the idea of going to a conference that costs like a couple $1,000s as a student, when you're not necessarily presenting, or you might not be doing a solo, or you might not be doing, X, Y, and Z at the conference, it can be kind of daunting. And kind of like, well, if those barriers are there, maybe I don't need to be there. If it's going to be this hard to attend, how can I justify that as a student? Would I be better off going to a festival that specifically caters to students? Um, so I think a lot of those conversations are continually happening. I do feel like there are some intentional steps in IWBC and ITG and all of those conferences to make it more meaningful of an experience for students. So like having a panel discussion with collegiate professors, talking about the audition experience, having research rooms for pre-professional students. So it kind of bridges the gap between I'm an undergraduate student getting an education degree and I teach at a college. Well, there's like this area, like master's students, doctoral students, where you're trying to cultivate your research and figure out how you want to share that with the community. But if you don't have those outlets, it can be really hard to justify.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been to three ITGs in my 27 years of living. One was in undergrad. No, two were in undergrad, and one was post grad school. And then I've been to one IWBC. And I think I can tell you more about my experience from IWBC than the ITGs is because I knew more of those people. Like I gravitate more to like the Jen Oliverios, the Julia Bells, the name your ex person here that's my friend. And I see them all at IWBC. And when we go to ITG, it's almost like, and I'll say this, I'll out myself. I text my good Judies. I'm like, y'all going? They said no. I said, okay, oh my God, I'm gonna see you next year. And then I just wait because like for me, if I didn't got my good Judies, I don't know if I'm gonna have a great experience. And so like the last one I went to, I had Lauren, and then like I ran into Jen there. That's when we started really cultivating our friendship. And I said, oh my God, I really want to know who Luke Spence is. And Jen looks over, Luke, and then like we had lunch with him that day. So it was like a good time. But I think for me, like I wish there was more regional things of ITG that then led to the international one, because then I feel like you could cultivate a cheaper option more people would know each other, like cross students. Like, hey, people probably in your studio are not all going to go, but if you knew people from this studio and this studio and this studio, y'all could probably make something work.
Mm,
And so that, as a outside professional, that has nothing to really do with ITG besides going every once in a while. I don't like really participate in it. That's what I would like to see, but I don't go quite as often.
I
that's
think
fair.
you hit on to something that I kind of want to unpack, where you said with these initiatives that these big organizations are doing, they're finally putting some action behind those initiatives.
Hmm.
I know in the past, whether it's going to Midwest or CBDNA or ITG, insert your conference here, and they do these initiatives to get people from an underrepresented community there, but then they just leave them there. And then what usually happens is someone like me, who is just a black little gay boy, I'm here, but nobody around me looks like me. They don't act like me. They don't talk. So it's just like I'm thankful for the opportunity of being here, but this has also showed me more of why I wouldn't come back, or
Hmm.
what's the point of me being here. So can you talk about some of those initiatives that is going on, and is it really actionable, and what are those kind of actionable actions that they're doing?
Sure. Especially towards the end of the conference, because some of the students that come that are like pre-collegiate are still in school, depending on the timeline. So like ITG is happening in Rochester, and high schools are still in session until late June in Rochester, which seems crazy. But so a lot of those are kind of back ended, or some of the competitions are front ended towards in the competition. So there are conference scholarships that are open to students, so you can audition for those. They cut out the registration fees. They help with a stipend for travel, so that can help with accessibility for the conference. There are more presentations on the back end of the conference, so that students and the students' parents that end up having to go with their kids can attend things like a panel discussion on how to apply for colleges. What are the steps that go into that? What are the questions you should ask? How do you find a teacher that you resonate with, that is like a safe environment for you to learn and grow and thrive with? So some of those things are great. There's also the prelude performances. And so if you're a student that's attending a college and you want to go to the conference, but it's kind of hard to get in for a presentation or for the solo competition, but your school has a trumpet ensemble, you can apply to play at it. And then your school recognizes, like, oh, yeah, they were invited to play at an international conference. That's great. We're going to provide some funding that can come from our end of things rather than exclusively the conference end of things. So that could be another way to increase that. I will also say I do feel, this is still kind of early in making it a more equitable conference for, all of the conferences, to be honest, but more intentional programming for featured artists, more intentional programming for ensembles, presentations, all of those things, so that you see more of yourself in the presenters and in the content. So like the recital that I'm sharing, I'm doing all works by women, and the other person that I'm sharing the recital with is doing, oh gosh, exclusively Miles Davis tunes, which is, I think,
Oh, nice.
yeah, we're going to have wildly different experiences for that concert. But I think it's a really great way to showcase, a variety of composers, a variety of people that are active and important in the community.
Mhm, mhm.
That's awesome. Hmm.
Something I'm saying this as somebody who has to go to conferences all the time for work and like had to do multiple for school. Not every conference needs to be every year. And I am saying this to people who are listening, who, if you are on an event planning committee for a conference, ask yourself, does it actually make sense for us to have this conference every single year? Because I know it may seem like, oh, well, it's a year, you have so much time, but like think about it. Like I remember Midwest and being like, I feel like we were just here yesterday, like multiple times. Same for no, the I'm never gonna talk about regional, because for regional things like MEAs and everything, I think there's a lot of benefit of those kinds of things. It's more local, so like usually when it comes to travel and those kinds of things, it's
You could
maybe a little
drive.
bit like less of a burden in that
Mhm.
sense. It's easier to get like a group of students together from your college to go together. The cost is usually lower, more benefits because it's local. International and national conferences, that is where because like there are a lot of them that are starting to scale back because they don't have the money and the resources to be able to constantly do it every single year. So, and then you're talking about intentionality behind the programming. Whenever you do have way less, like every other year, you can't just be putting BS on your programming all the time because a lot of
Mhm.
conferences, I'm just like, who are going to some of these sessions? You know what I mean? And so if you don't get to have it every year, you're going to be more intentional. And it's good because if you don't use the opportunity wisely and people are still seeing your programming with like whatever, then there's going to start being discord. I would hope that the community cares enough to be like, why is the programming not like, reflecting what's actually going on, et cetera, et cetera. Now,
Yeah.
rant over. Going over to the fact that you are a current educator right now, you brought up something earlier about resumes that I really want to talk about. I feel like we've talked about a good amount on here, but I think it's worth it to be addressed again. What are the conversations you're having with your students around resumes when it comes to maybe next steps in their education, as well as like if they're applying for auditions, and maybe let's say they don't have any like huge big no name like summer festival or school or whatever on their resumes. Like, is there like a conversation around that, or how do you approach that discussion?
I Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really important thing to discuss with your students. I think it's important to discuss it proactively, not retroactively, because I feel like a lot of times students get out of school and they're like, "Well, I got to put my resume together to get a job." That's too late.
Yes.
Well, it's because it is now. It's like you need instant feedback for that rather than being something that we're curating together. We're working as a team to make sure that it's representing the best of your experiences and what you offer as an educator or performer. um, I want that to be something that we start from day one when you study with me. So one of the things, I have like a trumpet handbook for my studio, and my students come out having done a studio recital every semester. They will have made a resume. They will have made a CV. And granted, they're in like chapter one of their career. So if they were to compare it to my chapter, whatever, they're going to look wildly different. But just having something, some sort of framework for them to work from is so, so important. And I feel like I owe it to them as, their primary mentor, to guide them through that process. They'll also have like a headshot. They'll have made a bio for themselves that's in some capacity. And then if they're an education student, they'll have worked on kind of creating their own teaching statement. It can be in its infancy, but that's still something that I would rather we work on and you have some sort of draft going than you panic submit something 3 days before the actual applications due.
Yes.
Um, Now, when we talk about, I work at an open access institution. So it's anybody that wants to come and study at my school, they can come and study at my school. There are no barriers from that perspective. So I get a lot of students that have never had private lessons. I get a lot of students that come from under supported programs where they might not have the resources that other programs would come from. And honestly, I think it's kind of a blessing sometimes because there are some students that come in and they have like the most beautiful trumpet sound and they've never had a private lesson in their life and they just need someone to invest in them. And so I get to work from a very early point in I don't know, their evolution, I suppose. And it feels like kind of an honor to be in that position. I go through when I am asked to do things and trying to like build my resume and all of that stuff. I go through kind of this question and answer for myself. Is it something that I need for my resume that I have not done? Is it something that I love? Is it something I'm deeply passionate about, an initiative that I really care about? Or is it something that pays me a good amount of money and so it's worth it? And if it doesn't at least check usually two of those boxes, then it might be something that I kind of offload to someone else or say no to. And I have those conversations with students where you're at the early stages of your career. You might need to say yes to something that doesn't pay as much money, but is something you're passionate about, or something that means a lot on your resume, but you kind of don't want to do.
I love that you're having your students do that now. I mean, even at my olden age, I still have to ask Michael, what did I do? Like if I am like, updating my CV or something, I forget the things. Like I really do. Like I forget what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I'm glad I have friends who I could be like, girl, what did I do last year? Did I present here? Did I speak here? But if that would have been something that was taught when I first got to college, to
Mm-hmm.
keep it up. You'll never know who you run into. And I know this whole episode we've been talking about conferences, but you'll never know who you meet at these conferences. Like I was just at Team EA and I have so many connections now where I'm going to do this or going to do that. If you stay ready, you never have to get ready. And
Mm-hmm.
that really is the thing. And for undergraduates, things can happen. You can come do a band camp. You can come, teach a sectional or something. Everybody's looking for private lessons teachers in the middle school, high school realm. You never know what door could open, so you always just
Mm-hmm.
be ready. And leading into that though, how did a door open for you to be involved with the brass band? Because you have a long resume and
Mm-hmm.
and was this something that you started? Was a door open for you? So what's that like?
I think a door was like accidentally open for me. So we moved to Kansas City, and my husband's also a trumpet player, and I was starting my doctorate, and he was moving with me together, but was not starting a program. And so he was like, I really need some outlets. I need something that I can do that's engaging musically, so I don't feel like I'm just sitting, So there, I think this was the last time that Fountain City had an audition. It was 2013, which is a hot second ago. And so he auditioned, and I was like, I'm going to go meet the people. So I went and I just chatted with people and got to know them. I did not, he was accepted into the band, and I got a call a couple months later. They were like, hey, you play the trumpet, right? And I was like, yeah, I do. And they were like, we need someone to play like the bottom third cornet, like the lowest part. You're a warm body in
Honking.
third cornet. You are honking the lowest notes. You just like whole notes, and you're vibing next to the tuba players. And I was like, I feel like this is my calling. I would love to do this. But I had never played a cornet before. I had zero experience. And so they provided a cornet and they provided a mouthpiece, and I did not know that it was for the E flat soprano cornet, which is the highest of the instruments. So I played my first concert with the band, which was a brass band championship.
Are you done with the meeting yet?
No, I'm not done with the meeting. Could you give me a little bit longer? Love you, buddy. So I played the U.S. Brass Band Championships with a Best in Prestige with an E flat soprano cornet mouthpiece. So I'm playing all of my notes below the staff with essentially like a lead trumpet mouthpiece. Yeah. It's like the equivalency. But they kept me around. They were like, yeah, I think with proper equipment, she would be okay at what she's doing, which is the highest kind of testimonial for my playing. And I have been playing in the band ever since. So I've been 13 years in the band, and I've played pretty much every seat in the cornet section and flugelhorn section. And it's kind of my favorite playing outlet now. I would choose a cornet or I would choose a flugelhorn over a trumpet most days. And I don't know if you all resonate with this, but like when you listen to yourself play and like that's me when I'm on those instruments. So like that's my aural expectation of what I want to sound like is on that.
This whole time I thought you learned cornet when you were in New York. Like, I just grew up listening to all the people. I played cornet because I was in the National Navy
staff band or the Salvation Army.
Salvation Army, those people. Because that's really big up north.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Here in the South, like at all. So I really thought you just grew up playing cornet and this was a door that just opened for you.
Yeah, it was when I started my doctorate. So I was like, it was at like the perfect time, to be honest, because I feel like when you enter your doctorate and when you're looking towards an academic placement or a position, you have to generate some kind of scholarship. So for musicians, that could look like I do a lot of chamber music, or I do arrangements, or I compose, or I do recitals. And for me, a lot of that has been talking about kind of creating and cultivating an idiomatic sound. on the cornet for people who are trained as American trumpet players. There's, like a very, I think, this kind of lineage of orchestral trumpet sound. And for anybody that's been trained in that and then goes to cornet, it's a different aural expectation for what you want to sound like. There are different things idiomatically that you need to connect with. And so that's kind of what I've centered my professional scholarship around is how to help people adapt to those different styles so that it sounds like you know what you're doing.
It's it's really funny because once a year, maybe twice a year, depending on how many times we get Jen down here in the Peach State, we have Michael. You should really pick up that cornet again.
Mm-hmm.
And it lasts from the time I pick her up at Hartsfield Jackson International Galactic Airport until we get to my house. And y'all know that drive is not short. But we still haven't get either Whataburger or Cookout, so it makes the drive interesting. But I love it. It's always my reminder of like, okay, maybe I should pick it up. And then she goes back to Kansas, and I'm like, or Missouri. I'm like, well, we'll try it again next year. I have been playing my flugelhorn though, so you wanted that battle.
We love that. It's the little things. I feel like it's a gateway drug to the cornet. Where you start like listening to your sound and you're like, oh yeah, that's like a warm hug. That's like liquid velvet of a sound. And then you just do a little bit of cornet and you're like, oh, that's like, it's like the flavor but not the commitment. I love that.
It's like the flavor but not the, I love it.
The other thing that I have to speak on is you're changing the scene of you're a composer.
Yeah. It's been such a silly side quest for me. I never expected it. I got sick last year during Thanksgiving break, and I was like, oh, I really do not want to play the trumpet right now because I can't breathe and I feel gross. But I would like to do something that I feel is still creative and still kind of like, I don't know. It felt like I was being productive with my time. I'm sure that you can all resonate with the idea of being, valuing productivity to a fault sometimes, and being like that type A personality where you're like, I can't rest right now. What? So I used my sick week to write an etude book last year. And then I was like, oh, that was kind of fun. And people really liked it. And I really enjoyed the process. And so I started writing some trumpet ensemble stuff, and I've kind of expanded from there. And I get to write for a lot of my favorite people, which has been truly a delight. I'm premiering a trumpet sonata in
Medusa.
2 weeks, which is exciting. Yeah, it's Medusa. It's about Medusa's life. It's very angry, and I'm into it. And then Michael Brown is going to premiere a piece. I'm so excited about the collaboration between you both. That's going to be so cool.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Oh my gosh. That was an interesting. We're talking about these doors open because me and Michael, we were talking about come to do my band and we'll find a piece, but there were like no good pieces. I was like, wait, and then next thing I know, I get a call from Michael. It's like a piece has been written, and I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, Jen wrote a piece in like such a short time, and here's the MP3, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, OMG. Like, it just happened so quickly. And like,
it was so fun to write. It was so satisfying. I've really enjoyed writing for like young musicians. Mm-hmm. So like I just got done. I don't know if you both know Meredith Fuller. She's a tuba player. Mm-hmm. And she is commissioning like an etude book of 12 etudes for beginner and intermediate level tuba player with piano. And so she asked me to write 2 of the pieces. One is like for baby beginners. So one of them is about T-Rex for me. So it's called Rex.
Oh, I love
it. There's only like 5 notes that I can use, and that's totally fine. And it's so fun. And then I wrote another one. It's like it's wisteria willows or something like that. It's like floral kind of vibe for intermediate tuba players. But I've really been vibing with like the younger difficulty levels because I feel like it's such an underserved area of the repertoire. Like, and the people that write for those like young bands, if it's good stuff, they make bank. I
They
think a lot of money. If you can write some good stuff for the kiddos.
I'm
well,
telling you, if
it's
you can
because
get a
we don't
catchy
have it.
tune, oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh no, I'm just saying, I that's currently where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot of diversity
Sure.
music. Like it all sounds the same. And so, I always say middle schoolers want the good music too. We're tired of playing the old Amaginti tunes. That
Yeah.
was from 1970s, 1980s. We want something new. And that's why whenever I talk to composers, write for the young people. Not only will the young ones like gravitate to it, it's going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of, if you were to type in like a middle school piece right now on YouTube, it will have like hundreds of thousand views, all these comments that are like, this song slaps. I played this in seventh grade. And the band directors are going to pay. Like that's where the money is. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that you are writing for the young ones because we need something fresh, something new.
I also love like the clear cut parameters around it for some like it's like a very clear assignment to me.
Yeah.
When I write pieces for professionals, I'm like, I could write anything. And it feels like I can't move because I'm like, I could write anything. Where do I start? Like, well, how do you cultivate the ideas and kind of funnel them into something productive? Where if you're writing for a beginning band, you cannot write anything. You cannot write any rhythm. You cannot write any pitch. You have to think idiomatically for the instrument. What are the 5 notes that instrument knows? And so it was very cool to write the piece for Michael because I was like, okay, so I have this like plan for the kids and I can make him suffer.
And she wrote 16th notes, and I said, "Oh no!"
I did, but I think it's a banger. I think it's going to be
No, it is
fun.
truly a banger. But no, it's so funny because people are like, there's some composers who's like, "Oh, I don't want to mess with that age level," and I'm like, "Y'all, I'm just saying this." When composers that write for that age level says they could pay off their car with one check, I'm just saying, why would I not do that? Like, if I could compose, baby, my name would be synonymous with one and twos, baby, and it would be every day producing 10 of them. Because
Yeah.
if I could do it, I'll throw them out there. Come on, 20.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you for $40.
I
Just
think
buy it.
chamber music too. It's not just band music; it's chamber music for
Yes,
kids too. Like I wrote,
because solo ensemble. Yeah.
yeah, I wrote a couple of pieces, like a high school level trumpet solo. It's like 3 minutes, like kind of similar difficulty level to the Gedeke Concert Etude, and kids love that stuff. I'm pretty sure the Gedeke Concert Etude has been played a zillion times. I could probably play it backwards at this point. And it's just like really nice, really refreshing to have some new stuff that is like similarly structured, similar difficulty level so that the students understand like, okay, this is a predictable format. I feel like I'm trained to do this. I feel like I've got the tools. So it's not something that's going to feel like a huge risk for me. I want to guarantee that success.
Yeah.
Same thing with the trumpet ensemble and stuff like that too.
I think the other thing is when you write for upper grades, you isolate the younger ones. But when you for grade 1, grade 2, the uppers can also play it as well. And so
you have to prepare them to play that stuff somehow too. I feel like sometimes there's a gap between you are a true beginner, you can play these 5 notes, and now you have to play, I don't know, Rocky Point Holiday as a high school, and you're like, whoa, where did that high E flat come from? I'm not equipped for that. I'm very scared. I'm very lonely. Yeah. No, I want something like but to like the grade 1, grade 2 pieces are so underappreciated for sure.
Imagine now. Wait, hot take. Imagine Rocky Point for middle school. What would that piece look like? Like put the parameters. No, I want to say we need someone from a brass band experience to write it because that's a lot of notes up in Rocky Point.
that's a lot.
But you see, that's what I love. Like I think I was talking to Marie Douglas one time because we did one of our pieces at our first brass day and she was in town for some reason. I said, "Hey girl, come up here," and it was so funny. But afterwards, I said, "So what about this? What about the baby version of Vienna mixed with some trap music?" And she said, "I got you." And I said, "Let me get a check." and then I got you. But like I always think about this, like what are the like baby versions of these pieces that we always love to play? Are these things that look like? What would a baby version look like?
Something that I'd love to see is like, so like these difficult pieces. Yeah, if they were able to, like, the high school plays the music as written, and we're able to kind of like sift through and figure out like, oh, we could make like half notes for the beginning band that goes along with this really difficult high school level piece. I mean, what a great mentorship, what a great scaffolding situation. I would love that.
What would a side by side like? Okay, so Lauren does a lot of. She's in the community and engagement and
Mm-hmm.
education office. What would a side by side look like if they someone prepared something where like a middle school could actually play with an orchestra?
That happens very often. So like we do community concert. We literally have one Friday, and we're playing with a high school orchestra in Renton. And so like sometimes what happens is there are students, depending on the piece, and we this is why there's the communication between the directors of those student ensembles and our conductors are so important because we need to know what level, because depending on what ensemble it is, what time of year it is, they're like, oh, they can whip this down easy. And there's other times where like no one even knows where their instruments are right now. So let's have them do this right now. And so often what happens is we have amazing arrangers who are just on, like, we have them at the symphony in the artistic department. A lot of our musicians arrange music all the time for like our young people shows as well. So it just usually is a conversation of like, okay, what can they do? Great. Now let's make some arrangements for the students who still want to participate in it and still want to feel like they're adding something to it but can't play the whatever the things are going. And then they have a mentor sitting next to them who's playing the exact same thing with them. They have a symphony musician who's also playing their part with them. And so it feels like they're still able to fully be a part of the experience, even if they are not playing the exact music as is. So it is possible, and we do it all the time because we have groups who we work with who they're just not playing, they're not at that level yet, and that's fine because we still want to be able to offer these opportunities to students in across the region at different levels. Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So adapt that. If you're out there in the world and you're listening to this, like there are ways to do it. You don't just have to say, "Oh, we really want to play that." But because like I think about, I guess like musical theater, they have like Into the Woods Juniors, Hamilton Juniors. So like
Yeah.
maybe a conversation with your local theater, youth theater group, and ask them how they go about those kinds of adaptations. I think they do that maybe a little bit more often than maybe even we do at this level. But there are ways to continue to have participation that is still helpful in like the
Hmm.
stepping stones of development. So
Like I love a side by side.
they're amazing.
Like, give me a side by side, and it's so fun
Yeah.
because I'm like when we just did my first one for Chattanooga because I we did away with them for a little bit, but we brought it back this year, and it was so fun because I was sitting there like, oh my god, hey, you're playing a little loud, but this is so fun, and they were like asking me questions. I'm like, so you do this like for real? I said, yeah. They're like for money, like your whole career. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, that's cool. What does that look like? Because they don't like sometimes in like we serve North Georgia and Chattanooga, so we serve a little bit of Georgia and Tennessee, and it's so fun because like if you live in Ringgold, Chattanooga is your closest symphony. And then Atlanta is a lot longer to get to. So they would likely to come see a Chattanooga or be in that youth symphony than be in like Georgia Symphony or something like that. So it's fun to like just like share it with them. But I also we've done them at UNG, and for me it's fun because I'm like it's all the things that I do. Like we had one side by side was like middle school, high school, and college. I'm like, oh my god, I teach all of you all the weeks, so now I can teach you all at one time. So it's fun for me because it's a challenge. It's like how can I teach someone everything at the same time and no one get bored?
Right.
But I love a side by side.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's very beneficial,
Yeah.
and the kids learn a lot more by just watching and being near.
Mm.
Mhm.
Look it up. So, I love you, Jen, and all the things that we have just got to talk with. I mean, it's so funny. We're talking about opening doors, and doors have been opened amongst us, and the collaboration. It's so beautiful. So, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. And can you let everyone know how they can follow you and be a part of your village.
Absolutely. There are a couple of ways. I will say my Instagram is private, but you can follow Mother Chaos. I keep my Instagram private so that, some of the stuff with my son ends up staying private. So it's just like a parental thing. But follow Mother Chaos. I post all of the like recitals and concerts and things like that on there. I have a website. The Missouri Western State University Trumpet Studio has like the Brass at MWSU. I think that's what the page is called. So you can follow the university stuff. I oversee the Fountain City social media and stuff like that. So if you want to check in on any of those things, absolutely. And then always you can find me on Facebook or email. I love when people reach out and have questions or want to connect about the things that we're doing here. So yeah.
Lovely. Beautiful. Everyone go follow, go email, stay in contact because this is amazing. Thank you again for being
here. Thank you.
And to our listeners, we're back. So be watching. All right, y'all have a great night. See ya.